Hello humans, it's just Martine, and today is the start of the Reds versus Blue rugby game. This is the last event in this round of the Heartstopper Readathon. It's a little bittersweet, but also I've been swamped since school started last week, so I'm also ready for it to be over, but also like not, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, in this event, our competitors got the clue timing. And in fact, timing does matter for this because every day of the rugby game at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be looking at the spreadsheet and taking a screenshot to look at how our competitors are standing at that exact moment in time during the game, and whichever team at that moment that I check each day has the higher page count for that event is going to be attempting a try, which is a touchdown in rugby. And when they attempt the try, the other team will of course have a chance to defend against the touchdown. How will they do that, you ask? Well, basically I'm going to look at the average pages per book submitted, and if the pages are within 15 pages per book on that statistic at that moment in time, they will successfully defend, and the team that attempted to try will not score. But if there's more than 15 pages per book at that moment in time for the averages, then the team that attempted to score a try will succeed and will get 5 points. And it will continue like that every day at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until the event ends. It's actually technically almost 2:30 on the first day, but I haven't told everybody what's happening yet because I was busy announcing the results of the three-legged race. If you missed that, go ahead and check out my vlog here. But we technically have passed our first noon of the rugby game. So things happened. I took a screenshot at that moment and I looked at it later, and red team at that point had more pages read. So they were going to attempt to try. And so then I looked at the average pages, and at that moment there was more than 15 pages separating the teams. So red team successfully scored a try, winning them 5 points, but nobody else knows that yet. Just you, vlog. So I'll let them know that in like a couple of hours. And other than that, let's see what reading I can get done during this Reds versus Blues rugby game. Good morning. It's the last day of I was about to say the three-legged race, but that's not the truth. It's the last day of the Reds versus Blues rugby game. And I was planning on updating you every day around the time that like one team attempted to score and the other team maybe or maybe not defended. But every day has been incredibly similar in that red team has attempted to score and red team has managed to score. And unfortunately for blue team, there was one day that at like a different time they would have blocked red team. But other than that, they've been pretty far away in average page count. But it made me regret how I set up this game because actually blue team has been way ahead in average pages. But then again, I tell myself like the goal this week, the clue was timing, not highest. So like they're not technically prompted to go for highest average pages. So like it shouldn't matter. And it's evened out a bit over time, but still not enough. So we'll see what happens on the last goal today. It's been rough to watch. Additionally, I've been avoiding you because I didn't want to tell you about this one book I finished, Androne, because it comes out, I think it's next month, and I really didn't like it. I gave it 1.5 stars. I just literally had no idea what was happening during this. It was very fighty, which I should have expected, but for some reason was hoping it would be less fighty when I picked it as my Amazon first reads this month. Regardless, in this one, we're following this guy and what's his name? Paxton. We're following Paxton. He's part of the military and they're fighting a war, and like the civilians don't know who they're fighting the war against, and they're using these big robots called andrones. And so the like pilot is in the androne and then the androne fights. But it was very, very confusing because at one point we start to play with time and it was really unclear how all of that worked. I didn't care about the characters. I am still a little confused how the beginning and end of the book tied to the middle of it. And I just generally didn't know what was going on. So there's that. It was probably my fault, but I'm just saying. So I did read that book. We'll see if I finish any books today. I've mainly been knocking out books for the 12 TBRs of Christmas, which is also why I haven't had much to say to you. You know, I don't regret that because I do need to be making some significant progress on that. So just know that I have been submitting other things for this event. I just can't tell you about them. I guess we'll see what happens on this last day. Hi friends, happy Friday. The rugby game ended 2 days ago, and then yesterday I did all the announcements, so it is technically over, but I'm also going to continue this vlog through the weekend because I didn't get to finish a lot of books. I read a lot during this, but didn't finish them, and I usually only talk to you when I finish books, which, I don't know, a lot of people update more as they go than I do. Comment down below if you would rather that I check in more when I read. I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm in the middle of so much it would be extra confusing if I just talked to you about all the books I was in the middle of. Regardless, I'll start by telling you how the actual event played out, and then I do have a book review for you that I finished last night. On the last full day of the event, read once again, tried to score, and once again won, but we threw in an extra attempt right at the end of the event. So after everybody had sent in all their information, filled in the submission form, and we were done, we took a look, and red team attempted to score, but blue team stopped them this time. So the ending score for the rugby game was 30 points to red, 0 to blue, but that could have been 35 to 0. So nice work, blue team. And overall, I'm super pleased with how much everybody read during the course of the whole readathon. So that's exciting. Now, let's turn to this book, because I read Whale Fall, which is a new book by Daniel Kraus. And imagine, if you will, that somebody was sitting at their desk and they were like, I feel like when I read the story about Jonah and the whale, it's not specific enough. And then you'd have the idea for this book, because in this one we're following this guy, and his dad has died recently, and he goes on this underwater dive to try and find his father's remains. He gets swallowed by a whale. And then the absolute horror of it, we spend the rest of the book stuck in the whale, trying to get out, but make it scientifically accurate, except for the things that we don't know yet about whales. Yeah, it was crazy. I'm giving it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. The author did a phenomenal job collaborating with a lot of people to make this insanely real and just crazy and awesome. It was definitely gross, so if reading gross things bothers you, don't read this book, but it doesn't bother me, especially because I don't imagine things in books as I read them, so it was kind of just words, but it definitely was still fascinating. And as Danielle would put it, I've kind of been in my whale era recently, so I snatched up my library's copy of this book as soon as I saw that it was there. I was like, whale on the cover, need to read now. And it did not disappoint. It was fascinating. That one technically did not count. I counted some pages for the rugby event, but I finished the book after it was all well and done with. But that did sneak in as my last book of the month. So there's that. Happy Saturday. So I left this morning, book in hand, and it wasn't raining, and then it started raining when I was out and about on campus, but I wanted to get back to my dorm room so I could relax and read for the rest of the day. So I was like, what do I do? Because I just have a loose book. So, innovation that excites. It's an umbrella bag. I put my book in it. Book is dry, book is safe. Thank you, umbrella bag. Hello friends, happy Monday. Like every truly good reading weekend, I'm here to fill you in on it after it's already happened. So I have 3 books that I want to talk to you about today. The first is A Duet for Home, which is a middle grade about this girl and her family who end up moving into Huey House, which is a homeless shelter in New York City. And we kind of follow some of the kids that live at Huey House and the whole process of it as some policies in the city are changing around homeless individuals and housing. And I'm giving this 4 stars. I thought it was so well done and so interesting. The author used to work at a shelter like this, so she had spent 20 years of her life being like, one day I want to write a book about these kids and how resilient they are and how incredible they are, and she's finally done it. So I highly recommend that one. Then I finished reading Turbulence, which is this superhero book about this group of people. They're on a plane and they have dreams on this plane about things that they would want the most in the world, and then they end up with superpowers that kind of reflect those wants. Kind of like a be careful what you wish for scenario, but we're following some of these superheroes, I guess you would call them, as they struggle with the people whose powers and personalities have led them to become super villains of a sort. This was just so interesting. Some of them were like classic powers, like the person who could fly or had super strength, but then some of them were really weird. My favorite power was the girl who could split herself into as many versions of herself as she wanted, and the reason that she'd wanted this was because she was like a mom and a wife, and everybody wanted things from her all at once and she couldn't do it all, and so like she wished that she could. And in this, she could, because she could be like as many places at once doing as many things as she possibly wanted, and then she could merge with herself and like gain all the benefits of having done that thing, whether it be like the emotions or like if she'd exercised like that. So that was super interesting. Overall, the book plot was just okay. Like the powers were the most interesting part, and there were plenty of fighty scenes that I like didn't care about. What did I rate this though? Right, so I ended up giving this a 3.5 because overall it was really fun and really interesting, but then like the overall plot, some of the character connections kind of fell a bit flat for me. So that's on that. And then I finally finished reading Ancillary Mercy by Anne Leckie, which is the final book in the trilogy, and I'm giving it 2.5 stars. Each book in this series has gotten like worse and worse for me, in the sense that like in the first book, it was interesting because I was just trying to figure out what's happening, what's this world like. Once you know what the world is like and you're just focusing on the plot, it's like more meh, and then it continues to be super confusing because the main character in this series used to be a ship, Justice of Torin. We're just seeing a lot through this one character's perspective. Like it will go back and forth to different people, but through this character's perspective, and we'll do that not necessarily in like paragraph changes, as in like on the page and then we go to somebody else, but just like as it goes, and that's really confusing. And I also didn't fully understand like the war here. Like I understood why it was happening, but then I don't understand fully how it was resolved, so there was that. But I am glad to say that I finished this trilogy. There is one more like spin-off book set in the same world but following completely different characters, and I am going to read that because that was the book that first caught my interest in this series. And also, if we're following totally different characters, hopefully I won't have the same problem with the narration of this trilogy. So there's that. So that was my reading weekend. Obviously, none of that counted toward the Reds versus Blues rugby game, but it did help me be like, okay, we're still reading after the Heartstopper readathon is over, which was good. It was an enjoyable time. So I'm going to end this vlog here. I would just like to give a huge thank you to everyone who participated in this round of the Heartstopper readathon, and of course to my co-host Hope for leading the blue team. Even though the blue team had a rough go of it this entire month, I had so much fun hosting this, and I hope you'll join me when I do the next round, probably in February, wink wink. But if you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below how was the start of your reading month in September, and subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!